Today with Jeff Vines.
Twice every weekday on Vision and on demand in the free Vision Christian Media app. A biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
This is without doubt one of the biggest weeks in Australian politics for a long time. And Christopher Brohier, Director of Policy and Research at the Australian Christian Lobby, is back with us. Hey, Christopher, welcome back to 2020.
G'day, Neil. Good to be back, and g'day, listeners.
Christopher, let me start with what's been happening over this past weekend. Queensland had statewide council elections over the weekend, as well as two state by-elections. I guess for listeners around the nation, probably the focus on some state by-elections and what that does to impressions of politics in the state of Queensland. There's lots of complexities and still things being outworked with the council elections, but give us your insights here into what happened with those two state by-elections over the weekend.
Well, there are two very significant by-elections, as people would know, because there was an 18% swing in the seat that went from Labor to Liberal in the Labor heartland area. And then in Anastasia Palaszczuk's seat, I think the swing was about 20%, but the Labor Party hung on to the seat. So they're massive swings. And I think the important issue from our point of view is that the Labor government is about to introduce some very, very bad legislation into the parliament. The full decriminalisation of prostitution and a complete new Anti-Discrimination Act, which will cause huge trouble to Christian schooling and Christian institutions, including obligations for affirmative action, etc. And so what I'd be encouraging listeners to do is to contact the Labor and any Labor MPs and say, you should not proceed with these bills. These will affect how we vote at the election. I think we have to make that message loud and clear.
When the writing's on the wall, and some are reading into those election results from the weekend, that when the state election rolls around 26th of October in the state of Queensland, when the writing's on the wall, sometimes governments work very hard to implement their agenda. It appears to be, with some of this sort of legislation that's going before the Queensland Parliament, you mentioned prostitution, other issues around anti-discrimination legislation, all sorts of things here. Would this be a sign that, pushes much legislation through before the possibility of losing power later this year?
It could be. It could well be that. Obviously, we don't know what happens in the halls of power, but it could well be that. And that's why we as the voters have to make our voices heard loud and clear, that these things are going to further affect the vote, and that if, for example, they pass decriminalisation of prostitution, there's no way people are going to vote for them. So that's the message. We can't tell people how to vote, but we urge people to let their views be known very clearly to all parliamentarians, Liberal and Labor and Liberal, because we can't afford the vulnerable to be squashed just because of some party's view.
Let me ask you about homeschooling in Queensland, an issue that's coming up with Queensland listeners, undoubtedly, and the Queensland state government taking a lead on this ahead of other states around Australia. What's happening with homeschooling in the state of Queensland?
So there's an amendment to the Education Act, and submissions, I think, are due by the end of the week. That's part, just as an aside, that's part of what they're doing. They're putting forward these significant bills and say, if you've got 2 weeks or a week to put a submission in, it's just grossly unfair to people. But on the Education Amendment Act, they want to tighten up the requirements for parents to report in the sort of curriculum that they're using. And the buzzwords in the explanatory memorandum are to make sure there's a high quality education, etc. But who knows what's behind that bureaucratic speak, and it could well be they want to get a greater control on what's done in terms not of quality of education, but of the philosophy of education. So that's a big red flag, and I would urge any listeners to again access that. You can go on the parliamentary website and find the link for the submissions. Put in something like Education Act, and let your voices be heard, because this week could lead to the end of fair income Christian schooling in Australia, with what's coming down from the federal parliament and what's happening in Queensland with the Anti-Discrimination Act. And so the one refuge, if you like, is homeschooling, and they want to tighten that up as well.
So there's something of a significant backlash that's happening right now against the sort of woke education system in the state systems right around Australia, and people are gravitating towards Christian schools, and then those who are going another step further gravitating towards homeschooling. So are we seeing that the government is trying to maybe try and stop the bleeding, that they're trying to now just make sure that they've captured Christian schools, captured homeschooling? Is that maybe what we're seeing?
I think it's not so much stop the bleeding, but what they want to do is cut the root out of Christian schooling. So people want the fruit. That's why even many non-Christian parents are moving to Christian schooling. But what the government wants to do is cut the root out. So the Australian Law Reform Commission report will be tabled, I think, Thursday, and that's going to probably recommend, in all likelihood, the removal of the right of Christian schools and Christian faith-based institutions to employ according to faith. So, look, you're going to be a maths teacher in a Christian school. You've got to live the faith, and that's very important. One of the young men I was talking to over the weekend at a conference came to faith through his maths teacher in a Christian school. And the other side would say, well, you can be anything and teach maths. Well, no, you can't. If you want to have Christian education, you have got to have Christian fair income teachers. And the second thing is to remove the ability of schools to operate according to their ethos. What that means is that pride clubs, etc., rainbow clubs will have to be allowed in Christian schools. So they want to destroy Christian education, and this week could lead to that. And then they want to move on to homeschooling.
So for those who have children who are attending Christian schools, or if you're a homeschooling parent, you might be concerned about that. If you have your children in a state school, you might be concerned about what is happening so far as these moves against Christian schools and against homeschooling. You did mention that you can still put in a submission around this issues to do with the Education Act. Are there some links on the acl.org.au website for listeners to be able to make those sorts of submissions?
You can go to the acl.org.au website. I'm not sure if the homeschooling that's just snuck up on us, but I think there may be something on the Queensland Education or the Anti-Discrimination Act and the Prostitution Law Reform Act. But the best place to go and look is the Queensland Parliamentary website, and you'll find links there.
Okay, so acl.org.au, the Queensland Parliamentary website. Look for the Education Act and see if you can find how you can make a submission. That's something you can do right now. You can do that today. Hey, Tasmania is heading for a state election this coming weekend, and it's going to be a huge time for Tasmania. There's going to be extra members who are elected. What are your impressions here? Because, Christopher, for a long time now, you've been the ACL State Director for the state of Tasmania as well. What are your thoughts around what's coming for the election this weekend?
Yes, so this is a big election, Neil, and you're going to be down there on Friday, I think, for your forum.
Yes, so just for listeners, just to touch there, because, yes, I'm going to be in Tasmania this coming Friday for a pre-election broadcast, and we're going to take a couple of days and we're going to give some opportunities there. Listeners might like to come and say hi. In fact, I'll be travelling down on Thursday, and I'll be travelling with Robbo, Andrew Robinson. Lots of our listeners know Robbo very, very well, and we're going to be in Hobart. And for those who might be in that particular area, an opportunity to perhaps say hi and to catch up with you and and maybe, just have a chat and hear about your own life in Tasmania. We're also going to be speaking at a Tasmanian church on Sunday. The Kingborough Family Church is the church that we'll be going to on this coming Sunday. Yes, looking forward to being in Tasmania. We don't often get these opportunities, but when there's an election on, we're going to take the opportunity there, and we'll be doing a broadcast on Friday. Back to the election here, Christopher. Your website, yep.
Yeah, our website is tasvotes.org.au, and you'll find there an election scorecard for each seat. Now, there are 5 seats in Tasmania, but 7 people are elected for each seat. And we've given a grading. We can't tell people how to vote, but we can assess, critique, and rank, and we've done that. Now, just to clarify, we're getting a lot of feedback that a lot of people's names aren't mentioned on the website. That's because under the Tasmanian Electoral Act, unless we get written permission from people, we can't put their names up. We've sent a questionnaire to the major parties. They haven't yet responded. The Greens have, and their response is on there, but the Liberal and Labor yet haven't responded. And we understand that Labor won't respond. So that's by way of explanation. But the major issue that we've been campaigning on, not campaigning, but bringing to the attention of people in this election, is the response to the Tasmanian Law Reform Institute report into sexual orientation and gender identity. The world has changed, and even last week, last 2 weeks, there was a expose of the really nefarious activities of the World Professional Association of Transgender Health, which really is an activist organization, and they've kept back from the people that they're aware of some of the tremendously harmful things caused by these sort of transition things, puberty blockers, etc. The NHS in England has banned effectively puberty blockers, except in very limited circumstances. And the report of the Law Reform Institute, which the Labour Party and the Greens have committed themselves to, will mandate that effectively for Tasmanian sex-confused kids. So this is a big, big issue for the kids of Tasmania. And we have scored people according to their responses to that. So go to that website, find out, and please think about that when you vote.
You've got a scorecard for each electorate and for each candidate. Is there a scorecard for each party as well on your website?
Well, there's a scorecard for candidates and parties. Some candidates we're able to assess from their track record and from their responses. Some haven't responded, but we've assessed the parties as well. So just to give you a quick run through, starting from the northwest in the seat of Braddon, we've given Felix Ellis an A because of his track record. We've given the Liberals a B+. We've given the Labor and Greens an F because of their position on this TLRI. Jackie Lambie Network, we don't know what they think, so we put a question mark, and some of the minor parties. And then the seat of Bass, we've given Lara Alexander an A+ because she's the one who campaigned most against this report. We've given Michael Ferguson, the Deputy Premier, an A. We've given Julie Sladden an A, and the others have got B+, and then Labor F and Greens F. In the seat of Lyons, we've given Guy Barnett, the Health Minister and Attorney General, an A. And then similarly down in Clark, we've given Jackie Petrusma and Louise Elliott. I think we've given her an A. We've given Catherine Searle an A. Jackie Petrusma might be Franklin, actually. And in Franklin, we've given Erica Betts an A+. We've given Jackie Petrusma an A. Aldo Antoli an A. And one other person whose name just slips my mind now, Joshua something or other. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Well, there's the thing is here, when you go on to the ACL website, this one that is tasvotes.org.au, for listeners in Tasmania, you'll be able to get an assessment of not only the parties but also each candidate. And as you say, there are going to be some that are going to score an A, and there are going to be some that are going to score an F. And while you're not telling people how they should vote, it's very informative because when you see that the Australian Christian Lobby has given an F, that means fail, then there is going to be something about some of the issues that Tasmanians are focusing on. And so if you're a Christian and you think, well, maybe parents ought not to be criminalised around issues of whether they can actually counsel their own children around sexuality, well, you might be thinking, well, that's what I want for my family. That's the sort of freedoms we want. These are the types of issues that come out of what's going on in Tasmania. Is that a correct way of characterising that so far as what Tasmanian listeners might be up against?
Correct. Exactly correct. Now, the only thing I'd change is we haven't listed every candidate because we haven't got permissions from every candidate. We've just listed some who we've got permissions from.
Okay, and but there's something, isn't there? A candidate or a party responds, and at least they put in an honest response to the questions that you've put to them. Those who withdraw their permission to have their name registered, or the ones that don't respond to a survey at all, there's a message that's spoken in that too, isn't there? Can you read between the lines there?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the people can work it out, but I just want to give credit where credit's due to Christy Johnson, an independent, who's against us on these issues, but she's responded. And to the Greens, they've responded. And we've said their response is not good in terms of what they intend, but credit to them that they responded. The Labor Party has just ignored it. And unfortunately, even some Liberals have responded, but the party itself hasn't got back to us yet. So we're doing our best, and we're getting a lot of feedback from people saying, you haven't put this person up, you haven't put that person up. Just bear with us. In a difficult situation, we're doing our best. And go to that website, look at the assessment. That's as best the call that we can make on this critical issue.
Well, these sorts of pre-election surveys become so valuable, and as one of our guests here on 2020 often says, most of us spend more time looking at a brochure on the new refrigerator that we're going to buy for our kitchen than we do taking some time to research what's happening for those elected representatives that will represent the views to the Parliament. So there's a challenge there, but how do you start? Well, here's a great start, tasvotes.org.au. That's the website set up by the Australian Christian Lobby that shows the pre-election survey results of candidates and parties. tasvotes.org.au. Very quickly, Christopher, New South Wales, conversion therapy laws were tabled last week. I imagine there's some debate coming around that now.
Yeah, it may even be this week. They may pass the lower house this week. So please pray. The laws aren't good. They're going to cause severe problems. They're better than Victoria, thankfully, but they're not good. So please pray. And please pray for the federal issues as well. And just one more plug before I go. On tomorrow night, we're having an online forum for the electorate of Braddon in Tasmania. And then on Thursday night, we're having a Zoom prayer meeting. And if you're on the ACL list, you'll get an email. Please join us to pray for this great state.
Okay, a Meet the Candidate forum for the electorate of Braddon in Tasmania. That's on tomorrow night. And the Zoom prayer meeting on Thursday night. One more quick one just before I let you go. The Federal Australian Law Reform Commission report. Thoughts here around changes to Sex Discrimination Act and all sorts of things that will come out in that report?
Yes, so I touched on that earlier, Neil, because it's going to be very serious. It's going to significantly affect Christian schools and faith-based institutions. So we're going to be launching a very strong campaign against these changes, but that's what the government's nailing its colours to, it would seem. We don't know exactly yet, but we're pretty sure that that's what they're going to do. So these are very serious times. One good thing is that in South Australia, Senator Alex Antic got the top spot on the Senate ticket. He's been an outspoken voice on our side of the argument, so we're very thankful for that.
Okay, so for listeners, acl.org.au, and for Tasmanian listeners, tasvotes.org.au, to see what sort of research has gone into the parties and the candidates ahead of this weekend's state election in Tasmania. Christopher Brohier is the Director of Policy and Research at the Australian Christian Lobby. Christopher, thanks so much for another great update today on 2020.
Thank you, Neil, and thank you, listeners.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.